club, but for video games. I'm your captain, Dan.
I'm your first mate, Catherine.
And I'm your chief engineer, Charles.
Welcome to episode 8. This week, we played Sunless Sea. Catherine, do you want to give us a bit of a rundown on what Sunless Sea is all about?
Yep. So Sunless Sea is a top-down exploration game where you're the captain of a ship exploring the vast unknown of fallen London, a giant sunken world. The game was released in February 2015, but was recently re-released for iOS. You have to carefully manage your food, fuel, and terror as you find new islands, shipwrecks, and cities to explore. Intricate storylines and backstories for your crew are revealed as you play and die repeatedly as you explore the vast unknown of the Neath. Will you leave a legacy of fearless sea captains? Or will your ship vanish into the depths of the ocean, remembered by no one? Fight sea monsters, eat your crew, die repeatedly, and never ever look too closely at the Z below.
So, Sunless Sea from Ftl Games came out in 2015, and you are a Z captain. And Catherine, this was your choice for Game Club. You'd already sunk, pun intended, a number of hours into this game.
I had. So, I started playing it because it came up on the poll. So, I did start playing it because I knew it was one of our options. And then I had a quick look, and one of the big selling points for me was that it was kind of billed as a very narrative game with lots of kind of storylines and things like that, which I always love. And then I lost a fair chunk of my life to it.
So I'll go through, for those of you who didn't play along with us, I know every fortnight you guys, most of you are playing the games with us, I imagine. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, Sunless Sea, you spend most of your time as a boat, and you're cruising around this sort of dark, fallen London area. As Catherine mentioned, it's this sunken world. And I believe this is based on the lore and the world from Ftl Games' earlier title, funnily enough, I think called Fallen London.
Yes, yeah. Yep, called Fallen London. So they've kind of expanded it out, and that game was a lot less of a game. It was kind of this weird multiplayer thing with a few storylines, but this is a full game. There's resource management. There's, you can run out of fuel in the middle of the ocean, and then you have to sacrifice one of your sailors to the god of storm. And yeah, it's a pretty brutal game. Before I got my head around it, I killed a few captains.
And I think that's the point, really, isn't it? That's one of the mechanics.
Yeah, it definitely has that built in. It's one of those sort of roguelite, I think they're called, games where you are going to fail, but then you're going to start again. The world will be slightly different, potentially, but you'll be able to sort of continue along, maybe with some upgrades you've earned from your previous playthrough. And in your little ship, potentially you can upgrade your ship, get more guns, go visit different ports, buy and sell things, try and make a bit of money, try not to run out of fuel or food, and eat your crew out on the Z, as they call it.
And I found the upgrades from captain to captain really satisfying, because it was kind of like you could choose a few of them, but it never felt like cheating. It felt a lot more like, your son, after the father was lost at sea, had found the old ship and had pulled off the gun and found an old officer that wanted to come along for the ride. And it felt like a boost, but it didn't feel like a cheat, if that makes sense.
You'd put in, it's a clever mechanic, you'd put in your time, so you felt like you earned it. But at the same time, they're actually making your next round easier.
They are and they aren't, in that they're making it easier, but the thing is, you start to explore some really full-on stuff. There were the quest that I was getting at the end, so you start with 25 points in most skills, kind of pages and mirrors and all of these kind of things that do different stuff at sea. By the time I got to the end of the game, there were checkpoints I was passing that were had to have over 125 points. So I couldn't have gotten past it without having killed several sea captains, gotten their legacy items, done different rewards and different weapons. There was stuff that you could not have gotten if you'd only done one playthrough, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does indeed.
Yeah.
Now, I want to
Do you think
I was going to say, do you want to touch on just how many hours you've sailed?
Well, so I think this touches on a thing where I'd be fascinated to hear how you guys went with it, because I've put on maybe 100 hours into this game.
Wow.
I put in at least 10 on the flight from LA back to Melbourne. And honestly, the flight has never gone quicker, because I kind of looked up and like it was, we were landing and I was like, but I want to keep exploring the sea. I think the big difference for me was I was reading reviews of it and kind of older reviews. The big difference was having it on iPad, because you could literally be playing it while watching TV. You kind of set your ship up to sail in a certain direction and then you just let it go. And it wasn't that it was a casual game, but it was definitely a game that you could do while doing other things on iPad. And so I can't imagine what it would have been like to be like sitting down at a computer to play the game, if that makes sense.
So that's what I did. And for me, I found it a little frustrating for a couple of reasons, but I think we'll get into them a little later. Do we want to kind of talk about what we really enjoyed about the game?
Yeah, I just want to say looking at my GOG now, I'm sitting at 8 hours played for Sunless Sea, and I think that's a decent crack. However, like you said, Catherine, I did notice towards the end of this fortnight, as we're getting close to recording date, that when I was first playing, I would crank my speed up to 2, the highest speed, to try and get places, because I want more story events. I want a thing to happen. I want to get there fast. Sitting there watching my ship slowly sail is really boring. However, once I took it to I'm gonna have it on the side and just go 1 speed and just chill and just coast through the ocean, I'll get to my destination eventually. It certainly lends itself to doing 2 things at once, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's interesting, because I think a lot of I was looking at the differences between playing it on computer versus iPad, and for instance, I only have 2 speeds. I have forward and back. I always go at 2. And that's because you can't choose unless your ship is damaged. And it's auto fire. So a lot of things that on computer are a little bit fiddlier. On iPad, they've obviously had to work with the strictures of touchscreen and all of that stuff, but it's ported really well. And I would go so far as to argue that it is actually a better game on iPad. And there were a few review sites that reviewed the latest iOS release after having played the original in 2015 that were like, yeah, so it's a different game on iPad, and it's one I enjoy a lot more. And that's generally pretty rare. Generally, if something's on iPad and PC, it's not always the better game. What's happening? That's a sound. Charles?
That was a little munch. She needed a kiss goodnight.
Oh,
She's on her way to bed. It was delicious. I got some big smiles, and she was making shushing noises at me.
Okay. We're going to cut that.
So
we're not.
Yeah, that's fine.
Daniel.
So, Catherine, what did you thoroughly enjoy? What kept you playing for 100 hours for Sunless Sea?
I mean, so obviously I thoroughly enjoyed almost every aspect of the game. The narrative stuff was great. You had a real sense of legacy and story. I really, really liked the random element of the map. So every time you died, obviously you guys didn't play as much as me, but every time you died, you could choose to start with a new map. You could continue on with the old map, but you actually got less points from exploring.
That's a cool choice.
Yeah,
cool.
But it actually made it harder, because you get a lot of pages, which are kind of the points-based thing, from exploring the map. So it's actually easier in a way if you have a fresh map every time.
Yep.
But it was random, but it was once you'd played a few games, you kind of be like, okay, so this location is always to the east, or Empire of the Hands is always right near the edge of the map, but it might be north or south. So there actually was a logic to where the cities were, and it could vary slightly. But it was just enough that it was I'm pretty sure it'll be here, but I don't know.
I actually went and read up on the map and how that works. Did you do any reading on that?
Yeah, I looked at I found a map which basically showed all the different areas that stuff could spawn from game to game. So again, I think it was just such a great design choice in that it wasn't completely random, but it was enough that I would start a new game and be like, I wonder where, the salt lions are going to be this time, or I wonder where, the carnate will be, if it'll be right to the east or a bit closer. Again, just so many good design choices for a game that is meant to be that you die and restart consistently.
Yeah.
And And, like I had games where I was sitting on a lot of gold, I had a lot of stuff, and I deliberately chose to end my captain's life or get a quest through so that I could start a new one. Which is not common for me.
That's really rare. Yeah, I don't think I can think of a game where I've on purpose destroyed my built-up character.
Well, because that's the thing. It wasn't destroying. It was like, oh, cool, I've achieved my legacy. I've found this mystery and I've done that thing. And if I restart, I'll pass on something to my next captain. So, yeah, it was just a very satisfying game. The things I didn't like, are we going to that now?
No. Charles, what did you like about the game?
Yeah, so I liked the aesthetics of the game, particularly. That was really cool. So it's very dark and very different in the way it approaches things. There's bats all over the place, and I guess your monsters and whatnot are usual, but the differences between, I guess, the locations that you come to, and the map is only so limited in where you can go. But I just thought the way they approached what was essentially a ship floating around the ocean, that aesthetically made it very pleasing and satisfying to do as you discovered new areas. So I thought that was really great. And obviously the narrative was fantastic. So you'd turn up to a location, just so the listeners get an idea, and a screen would open when you dock, and you can choose different things to do while you're there. And that brings up different narrative paths and different stories that you can choose little directions to go. So it's almost like a choose your own adventure at each port you get to, with choices depending on, and it gives you a kind of chance on whether you'll be successful or what the odds are of you succeeding in the path you choose in the story as you go. So that was super clever. I actually listened to a different podcast, that not that any other podcast exists besides this one, that had the writer for this game, or one of the freelance writers for this game, on, and we're talking to her about her experiences for writing for this game and how much she just thoroughly enjoyed it and was allowed to be just let loose and go to town, which had its good and its bad points, but certainly there was a lot of enjoyable narrative in there that I think you could play it for 100 hours and still not see everything it had to offer in that area, and that is impressive. For what is an indie game, that is just so impressive.
I want to touch on you've been speaking about the narrative, and I want to give the listeners an idea, or sort of a ballpark idea. If you have read and I've heard this comparison before with Sunless Sea, Terry Pratchett, that has sort of a whimsy to this fantasy world that also is kind of modern in certain ways. Obviously, there's a steam engine. It's almost not quite steampunk, but has that, the steam engine, you're burning coal, you're going around in boats. But also there's a H.P. Lovecraft, Cthulhu-esque, the terrors of the deep will drive you mad. Yeah,
it's very H.P. Lovecraft. It's also a little bit China medieval, so he writes a lot of things with kind of alternate London or dark London, a kind of very well-known sci-fi writer who is hugely influenced by H.P. Lovecraft. And, there aren't many games where I play them and it makes me want to go read a science fiction novel, or makes me feel a lot of the things I feel from reading a good, sci-fi or fantasy novel. But I definitely got that out of this game. I mean, clearly narrative games are my jam, but it was still a good game. That's the thing. There was great story, but also you had to be super careful about fuel management and money management and kind of, killing something at the right time so that you could bring it to this place. And it was a good game as well as being a good story.
It's got to be both.
To follow on what you're saying, the writing is great, but be prepared to read, because
so we can transition into things that were not so great now. Please go on, Dan.
Well, I think it's not that it's not so great. I think it's just you need to be prepared. I loved reading this, but I needed to be in the mood to read. And when you are in the mood to read, you are rewarded for it, because there is these great stories that catch you off guard. You go speak to the sisters and you go have tea with them and they tell you a crazy messed up story, and just the descriptions of her hair are insane. It's she's got a nest for her hair. It looks like bats may be living in it. You're not sure. And, it's written to you in that way, sort of describing the feelings of your captain. And I thought that was really cool. As well as I came across an island where there was a warring rats versus guinea pigs. And just that whole interaction was incredible.
And you can, like, as someone that's played through a few times, like, sometimes I've sided with the rats, sometimes I've sided with the guinea pigs. You'd either try and build up the rat empire and then eventually other places try and invade and you have to give them advice. And then, I mean, the first time I tried to help out the rats, I made the wrong choice and I came back and the island was empty and they'd all died. And I was like, I'm sorry, rat people. What have I done?
You betrayed
like,
the rat people.
They worshipped me, kind of. Like, yeah. So, I mean, but that said, I made different choices when I found the rat island on the next playthrough.
If you were a god, that's how your people would end up destroyed.
Betrayed?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're not wrong.
So.
Betrayed and destroyed. Yeah.
I made some errors as well.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Catherine about this before the show. The smiling man, or the shady man in London, who's sort of a really good underworld contact that you can speak to. He ends up giving you certain missions that are a bit shady, of course, because he's underworld sort of guy. And one of them was, go buy this thing for us, here's the money, bring it back, don't get caught, don't lose the item, don't even step foot in London again without the item. And like an idiot, I left London, did like a short hop, came back to London, and he's like, where's my thing? And I'm like, oh, crap.
And it just locked you out?
I had to fight it. I either had to fight him or pay him money back with interest. And after paying him back the money with interest, I just never got to speak to him again. So it locks me out of that entire quest chain.
That's a ballsy choice from a game, just to lock you out of so much content.
I guess, though, because it has that, you will die, and your exactly. Your child will maybe finish that quest line or start that quest line again and not fuck it up.
And I mean, like, look, on second playthroughs, all of the early stage stuff, I was so much quicker at. Like, all of the things that the first time round I'd read so carefully, once I'd done those quest lines, obviously I'm like, yep, I'm going to go to salt lines, do this. And so you definitely do start to skip those earlier stages to get into kind of the end game content.
Maybe that was my issue. When I was approaching this game, I was looking for a game. I was coming in with game mentality and I was ready to play a game. But I guess when I want to read a book, it's a very different feeling. I'm in a much more relaxed mood. I'm looking for something different. And maybe you have to approach this game in the sense that the same style that you would approach a book, in that relaxed kind of more laid back nature, to enjoy the flow of the narrative and not rush into achieving stats, which is what I was trying to do. I was trying to achieve missions really fast and get things done. And I think that's what caused my frustration.
And that's a thing where I think playing it on a tablet is such a different experience, because like I really do think the optimal way to play this game is sitting, watching TV, chilling out, and just playing it on your iPad. Because it's literally like you set the ship to, point in a certain direction, and then it just goes in that direction for a while, and you don't do anything. And it's like, that's not, and that's a thing on a computer that would really frustrate me. But on an iPad, it's like, that's cool. I can sit and do that. Like,
Another thing I really enjoyed about this is how when you collect items, or not even just items, but when you collect things that don't take up space in your hold, like you chat to someone and they give you a scary story or a blood-curdling tale, and it becomes a little card in your inventory, and it tells you how many of those you have, and you can trade them as if they're physical objects, which obviously makes no sense. When you think about it, you could tell that story to 10 people, but the fact that you can trade this story to someone, they'll give you some fuel, some supplies, and a bit of money, was just this really cool aspect of the game. Obviously gamifying it a bit, but it's similar stuff that I've done in tabletop games, which I really like. So I lost about 4 captains really quickly in my first sort of half an hour of playing before I got into my groove.
Yeah, I lost maybe 3 or 4. Yeah, I lost 3 or 4 where it's like, I'm going to sail, and I'd have like 1 fuel, and then the ship would sink. I'd be like, I've made a mistake.
I was super paranoid when I started playing. So I got about 2 hours in, and then I had to walk away from the game, and I just didn't have time to come back. But I actually didn't die within those first 2 hours, because I think I was so paranoid and focused on fuel and food. As my background's logistics, that's all important. That's everything. There's no time for stories. I'm worried about fuel, which maybe I was looking at the game from the wrong perspective. But I was convinced that fuel and food was so important. But maybe dying's okay.
They definitely are. It's just, it really is a thing where if you die, it's almost a relief in that you can start again and you're like, this time I'll do it differently.
Yeah, and then you don't if you damn. But then maybe the next time.
Especially because I read parts of that book, and this is bleeding a little bit into things I didn't like or just things I wasn't very good at because it was so narrative and I was hooked on the narrative of it. At some points, I didn't realize how that translated into the game mechanics. So they're saying, hey, go out and get port reports. And I thought, I have no idea how to do that. But then, it turns out that it's incredibly simple. You go to each port and there's essentially a button you click that will give you a port report. You take it back. They'll give you some money, some fuel for your time. And that's how you sort of can really get started. And while you're doing other things, still when you go back to London, you'll be able to sort of resupply and refuel.
You never run out completely.
You say you never ran out, but I certainly did run out a couple of times.
If you do it the right way, like no matter how far you explore, as long as you stop at cities along the way, when you go back to London, you'll always get, between 5 to 10 fuel.
And also keeping those supplies up so that your crew members don't have to eat each other. Although I did get the finished men, the golem guys. Yep. And so they reduce the maximum amount of people I need on maximum amount of crew I can have, which in turn means there's less mouths to feed, which was really handy because if you run out of that too. Because if in the PC version, if you drop below half crew, you can only move at one speed. So you can't move at
iPad's the same. So like it's just that you can't choose to move at one. It automatically does that for you if you drop below a certain number of crew.
Interesting, because I found that, and from reading online, people were saying if you move at speed 1, you actually use up less fuel for the duration of your journey.
I mean, they obviously had to...
Compared to how fast you go. However, then you consume more supplies because you're out at sea longer. So it's sort of that balance.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fascinated to play a little bit of the version on the computer and see what the differences are, because there were just things that like clearly normally you could fiddle with a bit on the computer one. That iPad, they were just like, no, we're just going to automate this for you because you can't do this on an iPad.
Which is a great choice, and actually makes the note there is that sometimes more simplified mechanics make for a better game, and I think we often forget that, but something to keep in mind. I guess we're running out of time. Yep. We're trying to keep it under an hour, so I guess we'll move towards the idea of: do you think it is a must-play indie game?
What about what we didn't like?
Oh,
we didn't like.
I think have we not covered that?
No, we didn't cover it.
Sure,
no.
There's a few more things.
Yeah, Catherine, go for it.
So what I don't like about the game, or what I had kind of trouble with, was there are all these references scattered throughout to, like things like the Pirate Poet and stuff like that. And it's only available on the PC version, and they don't know when it will come out to the iOS.
That sucks.
And, and then there's been some DLC that's just been announced for the submarine, which looks amazing. And there were all of these ports on the map. And the ports were only available if you had the submarine, but there's no clue of when that's going to happen.
There's some sadness going on. Things that I didn't enjoy were probably that there was a lack of tutorial, I guess, and it's quite a different game and quite unique in the way that it approaches certain game mechanics and ideas. So I really needed a little more help, I guess, from the start. And that shows
there was a tutorial.
My weakness as a gamer. If I had been playing Pong, trained as a 10-year-old, maybe I would have been fine. I don't think the tutorial covered the game mechanics enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I got lost. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it wants to give you the idea. And
it is. I mean, I think definitely
lost.
your unwillingness to die. Like, I think you thought of as death as a much bigger thing than it actually is.
Yep.
Like, it's definitely okay to die.
Okay. Good to know. After this, I'd probably like to go at it again, actually, and have another shot. So
play it on your iPad this time.
Yeah, maybe I will.
I had some issues in the similar vein as Charles with I would get into combat and I felt like combat hadn't been explained to me. And I'd read most of that book and really didn't get it. And I didn't realize why all my shots were missing. And it turns out you need to wait until your firing solution is complete, or at least the more complete it is, the higher chance you have of hitting. Whereas I just thought, I'm behind them, it's counting up, that must just be a cooldown timer. so I can just spam my shots as fast as I can. Turns out that's not the case, and I lost. I think that was one of the reasons why a crab dragged me to the bottom of the ocean.
That will happen.
And again, another example, all of that was automated for me on the iPad. So, like, I was taking down the Golden Dynasty warships that are right out near the edge of the map and things. And it's like, that was hard. And those were the things that kind of killed me a couple of times. But with everything else, it's just like, as soon as my shot was ready, you could press to make it go quicker. But other than that, it just fired for me. Again, because I think on the iPad, they had to make something simpler.
Yeah, because you don't have the buttons like 1, 2, 3, 4 to...
Exactly.
To change your weapons. And, one of the terrible things about being, out on the open Z, and it's Z with a Z, is that, you run out of supplies. But, and it's kind of lonely out there, and we haven't really touched on the fact that the music in this game was really incredible.
That's the thing.
Really, really added to the atmosphere. Made you feel alone, and really made me want to... I mean, I loved listening to it, but I felt alone and lost, and that time out at sea is probably like a really good time to be able to just chew through an audiobook. And so if you want to get a free audiobook, you can go to audibletrial.com/gameclub. Worked it in, Charles.
Look, I keep doubting that you'll get it in, and you do every time.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Good work.
Well done.
So Audible's got a free trial just for listeners. I know you guys probably listen to this every episode, but head to audibletrial.com/gameclub. You can get a free audiobook of your choice, and after that, it's only $15 a month to continue, and you get a new free, or you get it not free, you get a new audio book every month. I'm on that subscription, and we've been suggesting many books to listen to, but Catherine, would you have a suggestion? We'll just do one suggestion for Out on the Z.
Mine would be Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, because it's kind of set in the 1800s, which kind of feels like about the same time as this, and 1900s, and just kind of oldie style alternate England. So I think it'd be really good to pair some Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell with some Sunless Sea.
Excellent. And we'll step on shore, step away from the pay to win store there, and back into Fallen London, into the Z. Is there any final thoughts on the games that you guys had?
It is. Well, I mean, if we're asking if it's a must play, obviously for me it is.
Oh yeah, obviously. Yeah, I think we got the gist. Final thoughts for me. I think you've got to approach this game with a different attitude, and that's, I mean, saying a lot. I don't think I've ever said that for a game before. You've just really got to think about what you're doing when you're in there and why you're doing it, and not approach it like a regular game. And I think your enjoyment will be far greater.
Excellent. I would definitely recommend this game if you're happy with reading. I do know some of our listeners do prefer things read to them and prefer that dialogue all voiced, but there's just so much rich word here that I think you should really just get in there and give it a chance. Game recommendations. We'll just breeze through these pretty quickly. Catherine, you've got some recommendations?
Yeah, so I mean, if you liked this game, I would definitely recommend the other game by the same studio, Fallen London. I actually downloaded it off the strength of this game and found it really fun. Also, Don't Starve, just partially because of resource management and then kind of that slightly off-kilter, old and styly type thing. And then the Banner Saga, just because it's kind of a top-down, that is pretty different, but is also very narrative rich. And so kind of I think would be a good choice.
I would recommend, and I've got it in my notes here, Ftl Faster Than Light, which was one of the roguelite games that was in our poll to choose from between this, Papers, Please, and Ftl. And again, you're the captain of a ship. It's a little bit different. It's more combat orientated, but each jump you do have to make decisions, kind of like you do in Sunless Sea.
And the game I'm going to recommend is RimWorld, which is kind of a colony building game, I guess, but it has wonderful little story bits, and each kind of colony is different, and you do die a lot, and that's fine. You learn lessons as you go, and interesting things happen each time. You certainly wouldn't want to just have one colony. You want to try out multiple.
Excellent. All right, so that's wrapped it up. Go buy Sunless Sea. It is on GOG.com. It is on iTunes, and it is on Steam. But before you go, we do have a quiz this week.
We do.
So this is the captain's test. I'm going to name a famous ship, and you're going to have to tell me who is the captain of that ship.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Each score, as per usual, is going to be worth 3 points, with maybe bonus points or lesser points if you can only get part of it, or something
Definitely
like that.
bonus points for random things. Here we go.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and it's whoever gets first. Although if you have your guess, stick with it. If neither of you can get it, we'll let you guys have a second guess. The first ship is the Queen Anne's Revenge.
Queen Anne.
What the hell, man?
Nailed it.
I'm going to say something John on the basis that all the captains are named John.
No, I'm going to give you a hint. It is a famous pirate ship with a famous pirate.
Blackbeard.
It is Blackbeard.
It's the only
3
pirate
points
you know.
for Catherine.
It's the only pirate ever.
Yeah, that is
okay.
the only pirate I know. And the Johnny Depp pirate. That's
I can't even remember his name.
Okay, so 3 points to Catherine. And however many of you are playing at home, if you got it before Catherine, send
You're
us
better than me.
Well done.
Okay, another famous pirate ship. But this one isn't historical. It is, I'll give you the hint that it is from a story.
I'm feeling Johnny Depp coming on.
Captain Jack Sparrow.
The Jolly Roger.
No, it's the squid.
Captain Jack
Is it
Sparrow.
the squid guy?
Oh, the Squid
Squid
Man.
guy.
Jeffrey Rush.
Squidly.
Squidly
Squidly
Jeffrey
McSquid
Rush.
face.
Nope.
Oh. What were the other ships in?
It is a Disney property.
Captain Hook.
Wait, say it again.
Captain Hook, Charles with 3 points.
Yes.
Fuck you, man.
Wow, that's cold.
Yeah. Apparently I feel really strongly about the quiz.
Really strongly.
All right.
I really want to beat you at this one too.
You've never beaten me. I'm undefeated. I shouldn't say this.
I just don't think that's true. We may have to
Yes,
go
it
back and
is.
find that out.
This next ship
Fine.
is a Firefly class ship named Serenity.
Mal.
Wait, no, isn't that the pilot?
Can you give me his actual name?
Is it Jack?
Or Charles, jump in.
Mal.
Something or another?
No, his name is Mal. That is his name. Motherfucker.
I'm going to give Catherine 2 points because it's actually Captain Malcolm Reynolds.
Malcolm Reynolds.
You can't just call him Mal. The guy's
Everyone
a
in
captain.
his name in the show is Mal.
He's a captain,
People call
Catherine.
him Mal.
You don't give nicknames to Catherine. Show some respect for the rank.
Well, it's 5v3, Charles, so suck it.
Give me some bonus points, Dan. Give me something to win back.
Next up, we have the Starship USS Enterprise.
Ooh, Captain Kirk.
Captain Picard.
I'll give it to Charles.
Yes.
I'll give Charles 2 points because it's actually Captain James Tiberius Kirk.
Tiberius, what a strong name.
Yeah. All right,
Would you have accepted William Shatner?
Yes. We got 2 more. So hopefully we don't have a tie.
5v5.
Oh, jeez. This is tense.
Now, this is a whaling ship named the Picard.
Oh, the Moby Dick guy. Captain
Ahmed.
Dick
Ahmed.
Moby.
Captain Ahmed.
Not quite.
This is so embarrassing for you because you're like a writing
Are you a
person.
teacher?
Well,
You
like
teach literature and history.
I have my own thoughts
This
about
is
the
more
importance of
embarrassing for
literature.
So is that your final answer?
Ahab.
Oh,
Captain Ahab.
Definitely
it
it.
is.
Yes.
That is definitely it.
Woohoo! 3
All
points
right,
for Catherine.
last one for Charles to even it up, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Ahmed.
The
It's close.
HMS Endeavour.
The Endeavour. That's not Captain Bligh, is it?
Nope.
It's Captain James Cook.
Captain Cook, it is.
Yes. 2 Captain Cooks. Wait, the other one was Hook. Same.
All right, final one. Tiebreaker.
They both
Tiebreaker
landed
question.
in a new land, took over things.
There was a terrorism thing. I don't know. Oh, like it's political.
Yeah, let's not
Ready
go
for the
too
tiebreaker?
Yep.
To finish it up, to win the match, who's the captain on the Avengers?
Captain
Star-Lord.
America. Captain America. Captain America.
Oh, wait.
Captain
Avengers,
America.
not Guardians
Captain
of the
takes it
Galaxy.
out.
Yeah, well done. It's not a ship. My guy was the ship
Undefeated
guy.
champion. Woo!
Well done, Catherine. Well done.
Well done, Catherine.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's hard being a winner all the time, but I manage it.
You definitely know your captains.
I do. / kind of don't.
All right. So we wrap up here. Thanks for listening, and thanks for subscribing, sharing this podcast with a friend. Next game on Game Club is going to be...
Drum roll. It is going to be Papers, Please.
Woohoo!
So check out
Love me
Papers, Please.
some-
It was the runner-up in our poll, and so we're going to get some border protection going.
Yes, finally.
Yeah.
I've always
Some
wanted to be
Soviet
border
era.
Those refugees not getting past me.
I'm very excited about this game.
So you've got until the 17th to play it.
I will be playing it on my iPad. Just the normal plug for if anyone wants to play along with me. It is a lot easier to get a game and play it casually while you're on the tram.
I'm going to do it, Kevin. I'm actually going to play a game on my iPad. I'm excited.
Yeah, good
I'm a
work.
purist. I'm going to play it on Steam.
Yeah, good.
It's actually a little bit... I've played it on both. It's a little bit easier on Steam.
Well, let's not go into a review, people. That's for next time.
Okay. Yep.
So thank you very much again. We've got a very secret special game lined up for later in July that Catherine is also very, very excited about.
Passionate is the word.
Passionate, I think. Yeah, her loins are just
Gagging for it, if you will.
Jesus. And there goes the rating of the show.
There's the explicit rating on the show.
I didn't say the C word this time.
Please join us.
So proud.
Join us in our Facebook group. Chuck us a review on iTunes and tweet at the show at Game Club Cast, the only game club you'll need
Better than all other
when you're
game
out
clubs.
on this sailing on the Z.
Yeah.
Farewell, everybody.
Don't eat your crew.
Good advice. Bye.